Hello. Hello and welcome to the Boise State Esports Arena. It is week 4 of the PEC spring season, and some Overwatch action awaits us today. After today, there is only 3 more matches, 3 more chances to push for the standings. So join us as we hit the home stretch before playoffs. Tonight's matchup, a team already climbing back up. Second place and looking to gain ground, our Boise State Broncos, and their opponent, a University Kansas squad who wants to break out from the 5th place middle of the pack. The Broncos versus the Jayhawks. It's PEC Spring Overwatch. What an interesting match. And, you know, for two of us who have not really been on the desk for Overwatch, I've been hearing that this might be a bit of an important matchup to be watching out for. But exactly why, haven't fully gotten there yet.
I mean, you have to look at the way the standings are currently going, right? You have 2 teams that are neck and neck, that is Utah and Boise State. So the Broncos, they're looking to push forward, which means if you look at the schedule that's ahead, there's Syracuse up there in the schedule. There's also Ohio State that's up there in the schedule for both of these squads. So this means that every win in these last 4 games is going to be incredibly crucial.
I think it's a lot of fun that we're going to have that back and forth with Utah and Boise State right now.
Yeah.
You know, both teams are going up against the same teams, showcasing, you know, while we're fighting for that second place, like, what will be the big difference? And, you know, something I think just to generally call out is just that back and forth that we've had with Utah being a team that we've had some interesting back and forth with ourselves. But before we get into that action today, I've got a question to the audience. Do you want to keep up with all things Boise State Overwatch 2? Well, I got some great news for you. We have social media accounts buzzing with content. Scan the QR code or go to Instagram and X and give us a follow at Boise State OW. All one word, and you'll get updates, schedules, and even content from our Overwatch 2 team. That's Boise State OW on Instagram and X. It's worth it. We've got schedules, updates, and even the team showing off their dance moves. It's some fun stuff.
Yeah, personally, I've already followed on both. I've seen the dance. It's incredible. Shout out to Daydream, by the way. She does a lot of the content management, which makes it for a good time, man. I love it when we get socials like that going.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to be able to see the behind the scenes because, you know, we see the players on the desk. They're serious, they're focused, trying to make sure that they win the games, but we don't get to see them just hanging out and have a good time, and that's exactly where the fun of having a social media account is. And, you know, as someone who got to see the dance while they were recording it, it was pretty funny to be able to see it. I was there the day of, and I got to see the clips before they went on the social media. It was a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome, but we do got to start talking shop because last week we had the Baylor Bears that were in our past.
And yeah, a bit earlier, as we said, we are dead even with Utah, who gave us a run for our money earlier in the spring. So this big 3-0 win against Baylor last week was a crucial turning point for Boise State to stay in the race for that second place spot.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to the Baylor Bears, they did give it their best, but ultimately, Boise State, we are competitive when it comes to Overwatch, and it definitely showed with this match going 3-0, something that's very well needed for the Broncos, considering that neck-and-neck tie that we have with Utah. If it wasn't for a win here where we got to pull out some of our other players as well as, like, Daydream, Diamond Dog got to see play, if it wasn't for the win here, then we wouldn't be at that same spot that Utah's holding, where, you know, when you look at that head-to-head, dead even, the standings show it.
Yeah, like you just mentioned, of course, the standings are as such right now. Ohio State is still holding strong to that first place at 8-1, while Boise State and Utah are now locked in a fight for second, both at 7-3. Syracuse looking to close in at the top 4, 6-2 right now. Now, notably, as we were bringing up those matchups here, these crucial matchups going forward, there is some interesting things to be calling out, and with this current week, we get to see how the rest of the teams are going to be stacking up against each other. We already know we're facing off against the Jayhawks tonight, but it is going to be a back and forth, I think, for the rest of the teams. We were kind of talking about this earlier. It's a very interesting lineup.
Yeah, what we got coming out right now, I mean, it feels like it's a lot at the top of the standings going against the lower half of the standings, but that's not to say you can underestimate any of these teams. You know, even though, hey, Kansas, 5th place. We are Boise State fighting for that 2nd place. Kansas was able to get the better of us back in fall. You know, there was a player difference back then. We didn't have one of our players, as we do pull up the roster, clear playing in that matchup. So it'll be interesting to see how things shape up going forward.
Yeah, I think, you know, you could talk like, oh, you know, Boise State. We were talking about this actually last week when Super Smash Bros. Was playing against Kansas. You know, it was a bit of an underdog story for them because they were going up against them to get their 2-0. It was such an awesome match to watch, but it's a little different for the Broncos here. It was a 3-1 when we went up against the Kansas roster as we get to check in here. But like you said, a integral player for the Boise State Broncos was not present. So although, you know, Kansas is a very strong team and we had some back and forth with them, we have an extra variable to account for in this shakeup here.
Yeah, so I think that might put a big difference on how things are going to go forward going into this Kansas match. But you know how you take wins in Overwatch, Audrey?
I think it's with Doc's keys to the game.
Yeah.
Doc's keys to the game are, of course, in Overwatch when they are unprepared, pummel your opponent, understand your comp and play style, and win those 1v1s. Doc's keys to the game are brought to you by Blue Ribbon Painting. With over 90 years of combined experience, they are proud to be Boise's go-to team of local multi-generational painters who know how to level up your home. Visit blueribbonpainting.net.
I will take those keys to heart. I feel like we're going to get some new keys as time goes on because, Audrey, we were talking about it right before this broadcast went live. It's going to be a pretty different Overwatch. Things are changing. We've got a new patch, a fresh patch to play on.
Great time for us, you know, who are, you know, jumping in for our first time in the season to also jump in the day that there's a massive patch, you know, Overwatch looking to mix things up. 5 characters that'll be dropping. We won't be seeing them for a couple weeks, but they are there. Some map changes to be looking for and the passives that have been updated with the characters, creating a little bit more variety in all of the roles, which I think is, you know, when you have such a large roster as we do now with Overwatch 2, it makes sense to have a little bit of extra stuff going on to mix up how characters are playing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to me once we get into the future and those 5 characters are unlocked. And, of course, deeper into the future because there's supposed to be 5 more characters throughout the year that get unlocked as Overwatch continues. But you never know what character is going to provide an edge to what player who's going to kind of take to that character and start to, you know, run a lot of the battlefield with it.
Yeah, you never know. The character that you might be waiting for to be able to jump up the ranks might be on the way. And
your new one-trick pony.
Yeah, your new one-trick pony. I sometimes wonder that, you know, that's, as much as I like Overwatch, I always struggle with the characters. And when I saw the 5 character drop, I'm like, hey, maybe there's something in there for me, you know? So maybe I can jump, you know, into competitive finally and do a little bit better than I have done previously. But I know that the best thing, too, for that, too, is just more variety for the competitive play as well, creating that extra element of opportunity for comps and just like niche things that you can do on different maps and just shenanigans, of course, with different character combos that work surprisingly well together. Especially with characters that can control the environment or give interesting physics interactions. It's so much fun, I think, to see.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to my days of playing Overwatch. That was the original roster, right? Nothing too crazy there. I look at now, and you have certain players who are like, I don't want to say full-out one-tricks, but very proficient at certain characters. I think of Wrecking Ball and Strider, that's always going to be one that steps out.
I would agree with that. And, you know, a character I personally was looking at, which we saw a lot of play with against Baylor last week, was Vendetta. So much movement with that character that I saw and allowed for so many shenanigans and like extra stuff. And I think with those new characters, we'll see that going forward. But it's not something we have to worry about just yet as we get to jump into the maps and bans. Already going to be seeing the bans as we jump into Nepal for Control. That is going to be Malga and Farah, looks like it.
Yeah, interesting seeing a Farah ban. I feel like there's certain characters who can just outright take her out with not much issue, but you never know what the scouting really tells you when you're looking over certain teams. So definitely some value that either university was able to find there, but we'll see how that does shape up.
And you know, with the open air areas of Nepal, I can see why you don't want to deal with like a Farah in the air. I think the biggest thing with her is like you can forget that she's around because she's just not in view as often, and that can be a really interesting thing. So I don't blame that. And, you know, Malga is a tank that can soak up a ton of damage, and so bans on both sides will make sense. But I don't foresee, you know, I haven't seen those characters a ton on the Broncos roster when I was looking around, so I think not too scared so far jumping into this, but it will be exciting to get into this first matchup here.
I do really want to reset the table for those stakes because this match is important. Every match is important going forward. Second place with Utah. Something might give in the future. You go ahead and look at both of these teams, Utah and Boise State, will be facing off against Ohio State in the future. And that really puts an interesting scenario, right? Because we were able to take down Ohio State when it came.
We're the only team.
We're the only team that was able to do that in fall. So it does give us a little bit of an edge going forward in that race versus Utah. But first, we got to take down Kansas.
Yeah, we have to come back from the last season and show that that is not a deterrence as we get ready to jump in here. Seeing Strider jumping onto the Sigma, already moving forward, trying to create some space for the Broncos here, going up against their opponents here, using that hallway smaller space to their advantage. No immediate KOs, just trying to find that opportunity. Cassidy looking for the picks from behind. Ooh, opportunities to go after the opposing Sigma, but not going to quite find it. Instead going to go to Strider. Ooh, finding a bit of a rampage here. The players, all but Wendy's, gone. And with that, the Broncos are able to find control of the point.
And that's one of the things we do talk about, how strong the Broncos can be when they're able to push forward and they have someone like Clear who can lead that charge. You can see Maxwell doing a lot of the work on this Cassidy, and they're holding down Kansas to that choke point.
Yeah, using that hallway. It's such a rough spot to try and go through, though. Kansas is going to find their opportunity moving through, creating some shields. Looks like we're looking for some sneaking around here as we look for the new corner. Clear on Vendetta, character I called out. Looking for some opportunities to jump over in surprise. Oh, but not going to immediately jump in, not wanting to contest two players by themselves.
Really see the pressure now being applied by Boise State. 5-player kill streak coming out for Strider, and they got him cornered like shooting fish in a barrel. It is damnation for Kansas.
No foot on the point for the Jayhawks here, and the Broncos reach the 50% marker, now having to recoup and find a new opportunity. That you're going to have a rough time once again having to go through the hallway that so far they've been unsuccessful in really breaching.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of control Boise State are putting out here, and Kansas just can't seem to fight their way through it. Again, pushed back to that choke point, and Strider can happily step up and apply that pressure, but now finally, Kansas are able to get some kills.
Yeah, using some momentum here from the Kirito, they are able to find that opportunity, gain control, but not for before the Broncos are already at 70% on the point. Kansas needs to be careful here as they look to contest that hallway in the same way that they were being treated to earlier by Boise State.
Right now, Kansas do have some ultimates up to look to keep this held down. I'm going to be looking at that Cassidy ultimate that might force Boise to go back if they go a little bit too far.
Ooh, and they're going to jump out, though. Hex activating ultimate to bring forward Strider, able to take down the opposing tank, and that creates a lot of extra space. With another support down, Kansas just lacking the resources to do much.
Yeah.
Great opportunity there from Hex, creating space and opportunity for the team.
And that was a rough use of the Deadeye. I don't know if you saw that, but we heard the high noon called, and immediately Boise ducked into cover. Kansas already lost 2 members, so they really couldn't do anything with it. That's going to be an ultimate wasted.
Yeah, not a good spot to be in, especially as once again the timer is going up. Kiriko is able to save Maxwell here. Lyric looking for those opportunities, fighting again in that tiny hallway, just using it to their advantage. Strider wanting to be able to take down the opposing tank, not finding the opportunity just yet, getting stunned, needing to stay up, and so far so good as we do hit overtime. Kansas able to put a foot on the point, holding strong. Lyric looking for that opportunity to take them out, but having to back up and support Hex instead. Needing to reset with 3 players for the Broncos down. Kansas is able to find the point again, but they need to be careful with that 99% marker taunting them.
I mean, you can see how many ultimates are about to be available. Kitsune Rush almost for Lyric. Clear has his ult. So we'll see how they move forward right now. Plenty of tools left for Boise State to work.
And with the extra support, everyone ready to go. They're going to jump in. creating some extra space, jumping through, having the extra healing. Now looking for that opportunity going forward, jumping straight into the fray, looking for the ultimate, not going to find anything fully yet. Not going to activate that actually with the Sigma down. Now we're going to see that going through some space and getting that double knockout there. Great opportunity, the Broncos finding the point and going back into overtime. Kansas trying to look around, but getting mowed down by Clear.
Jeez, Clear! What a display of power coming out from him. I mean, one of the things about that ultimate coming out is it's very telegraphed. You can see when it's going to come.
Yeah, you can see exactly where it is.
Yeah, but he still finds the opening, the perfect spot to get 2 kills back-to-back. Boise State clean up and take that first round.
Just like getting that replay moment for it. Oh, what a satisfying knockout.
Yeah.
You know, if I was Clear right there, I mean, I totally understand the instant move forward to go knock out and clean up shop like that, bringing them to the next point.
Is that 4 back-to-back kills?
I think it was, yeah. I was trying to process it all and talk about it at the same time, and I was just getting overwhelmed by how fast it was going. Just shows how quick on the draw. Oh, yeah. Should have expected it from watching the Baylor match last week, but, you know, still caught off guard. We are going to... I was about to say it looks like we might get a swap up, but nope. We're running it back after what happened. Strider swapping it up a little bit here. Going to move forward off the point, trying to get the supports out of the back line for the Jayhawks. Not able to find them. Is going to jump into the fray over the side. Having to be careful on that edge there. Is going to get knocked out, but the rest of the Broncos are looking to find that space, needing to back off though without the extra support from the tank here.
Yeah, I got to give some credit to Kansas right there. Usually you can kind of just play around the map, you know, and anchor yourself, but Kansas put a lot of pressure on Strider. There was nowhere else for him to go, so now down to tank. Boise State will have to reset before they get in, and now Strider back on the map. He's going.
Jumping in, trying to create that opportunity, moving forward. The rest of the Broncos going through. Ooh, knocking Cassidy off the side with that down. Hex able to follow through and help Strider with that, knocking them off balance and creating no room. Maxwell and Lyric able to go for the cleanup there. Kansas completely wiped out, though they were able to put some percentage on the board. They need to see if they can find a way back.
Yeah, and you kind of see what happens right there. Sure, you grab their tank on the first push, but once he's back and Boise State are able to organize, it's so hard to deal with this team. And communication, I'm not going the way of Clear, as he will fall to, oh, it's that guy again, my dog died.
Sneaky there from Strider on that way, moving back onto the point here. Kansas on the side, looking to move in. Strider just holding that area, trying to create a little bit of extra room. Is going to be eliminated. Boise State taking a bit more of a back approach there, getting knocked out. Once again, you know, Strider down, needing to recoup. Having that buffer from the tank is just so vital to control of the point.
Yeah, Kansas doing much better in this game so far, but sure things might get interesting. We got our first ult up. Maxwell's not too far behind from getting his. Boise State now fighting to get control over that point.
Arisa activating the ultimate, getting that extra durability, and Kiriko following through. Boise State wanted to make the push, but Kansas said no. And now the Broncos looking to find a new opportunity, perhaps with Strider sneaking around the back lines, as he does.
That's Strider for you, yeah. So it's a very sneaky little hamster as he goes around in his ball, but now finally getting picked out here as he will get stunned, forced to push back. But that's the thing about this hamster, he can come at you from any angle.
Ooh, Lyric responding in kind, activating the ultimate himself here. The Broncos were like, okay, you can do that, but we're going to do the same. Maxwell going for that, able to knock out Wendy's. Clear, moving into the fray, trying to gets a double here. Good spot to be, and almost taking down My Dog Died before going out themselves, but Boise State Broncos avenge their players and find the control of the point once again, though Kansas has put significant percentage on the board this time around.
But you can see the power of that 1-2 punch. You had Maxwell taking a high angle, had a good vantage point to really rein in damage, and as Kansas are trying to retreat, you see Clear instantly goes to finish off those kills onto Kansas.
I mean, having You know, playing the character Vendetta, you know, that's exactly what I would expect coming in and cleaning up. But Strider says, I see you all there, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a what for before you even get near the point. Going to jump in once again with the ultimate going for the bombs and just, oh my gosh.
This hamster's insane. There's so many jump scares. He's going to push another one off. Strider, you maniac.
Oh, and then the knockouts just, is that 3 or 4 knockouts there, just throwing people off the side. The Broncos are like, who needs the guns when you can just throw them off the cliff?
You know, that was revenge for his first death, right?
You know what? He took that very personally.
He took it very personal. Now he's got a real high angle right here against Kansas.
Oh my gosh. You know, if what you saw earlier wasn't enough, he is going to get booped off the side, but it's not going to stop him. Try to look for this ultimate, but is going to fall back to help the rest of his team. Clear taking Sinks down. Using the ultimate to clean up shop here as Hex, Strider, and Clear once again getting that 10-player kill streak and ultimately taking the second control point.
This second round was something to behold out of the Broncos, right? Like, you could tell what Strider was trying to do straight from the get-go when Kansas State cornered him and took him out. But once Strider's able to play his game and come at you from these odd angles, it is so hard to deal with this damn hamster. And of course, Clear, Maxwell playing together in perfect tandem. Clear cleaning up a lot of those kills. This was a pretty good team effort coming out from the Broncos.
Yeah, just always love to see it, giving those opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, what if you could pursue college or your dream career while serving your country and getting amazing benefits? The Idaho Air National Guard, just 1 week in a month, 8 months out of the year. You'll get tuition assistance, signing bonuses, healthcare, 0 down home loans, and high-tech job training, all while keeping your civilian life, job, and goals right here in Idaho. Whether you're studying, working, or building your future, the Guard enhances it all while giving you leadership skills and lifelong connections. Ready to have it all? The Idaho Air National Guard is your pathway to education, career success, and purpose.
And the Broncos fought this game with purpose. I will say that. That was a pretty good display coming out of them. Round 1 was very dominating. Round 2, we did see a pretty good bounce back out of Kansas, mostly because they were able to get first footing against the Broncos in the early stages of that. But
yeah, that knockout of Strider off the side, which was such a big moment in that second map. And when you lose your
disruptive tank, like, what are you supposed to do then? You have to wait for him to come back. Eventually, the Broncos do find their way back in. They synergize, and they push Kansas right on off with some pretty aggressive offense.
Yeah, one thing, you know, I just saw in general was all of the coordinated strikes, especially on that first map, gaining so much momentum and really controlling the tempo of every fight. A lot harder to do, I think, on that second map just because of the danger of the cliff that you have to deal with. But we saw the Broncos leverage that to their advantage and used it for one of the funniest combos of kills that you can ever get. I think only really topped by the pit in the middle of the Ilios map, because, you know, there's only so much you can do to truly avoid that one. But with that, the Broncos were able to tie that one up nicely with a bow and put the first game in their corner as we get to jump into, I believe it's hybrid for the next one.
Yeah, it should be interesting going into this one. Again, the Broncos kind of have a chip on their shoulder against Kansas, who did beat us in that 3-1 back in the fall. So starting off with a map win, going 1-0 up in the series is always going to feel real good. Just got to see that momentum taken all the way to its success, and right now it really does seem like the Broncos feel good.
Yeah, though I will say Kansas putting up a fight in that second round does show that, you know, not to get too comfortable yet as we jump onto circuit here. They have some fight left in them as well as we get to check out the bans for this next map. Looking towards the more robotic characters of the roster here, tank and support in kind. You know, I don't really... I'm not surprised to see Ramatra. I've always enjoyed Ramatra, and Echo is a, you know, I mean, a character that can copy other characters. You know, you got to be careful of seeing that on play. You do want to be wary of that. And, you know, this map is a little bit more closed in, being one of the city maps. So having a little bit less, oh, look, it's just double of that character. I can see wanting to avoid that. Especially as well with Ramatra's general control that he can bring as a tank.
It's definitely been a pretty interesting season for the Broncos, but I do like the bounce back we've been kind of having. I do think there were some earlier stages within spring where we weren't exactly getting the best look at them. We did suffer the first loss having a clear on the roster with us, right? That happened this spring, which was a big surprise, but it felt like it wasn't the Broncos firing on all cylinders. And I do think as we've gone on with this season and as we start to close out the split, we're starting to get that look of what a fine, polished Bronco squad really is.
And, I think that's the fun of watching any competitive season of esports, is not just the individual wins, but the overtime growth. And I mean, what's the fun? I mean, it's fun to win every single match, but at the same time, what's the fun if there's not a little bit of back and forth in that story, especially as we get ready to, this season is unique compared to fall, where we're not just rolling into a new season, we're rolling into the tournament, at the end, the championship. So I think it's fun to see that back and forth. And like you said, with the growth, it's a great thing to see, especially while contending against Utah for that second place.
And if you really want to talk about growth, again, this is the first week where we're playing on a really massive patch change. So they're showing adaptation to all the little things that we got. You were talking about the perks. There's slight map changes that come in. Sometimes it takes teams a little bit longer to get used to that sort of thing, but it seems like the Broncos really have that geared up for.
Yeah, especially because my understanding, at least, of the passives change is it's really going to be a big calculation mentally to change. When things would normally damage this certain way, it's actually going to be a little bit slower because this character happens to be airborne, for example, or this character is healing because they're healing someone else. That changes so much of the mind game. And so although how something is going to normally go down, to have to go, wait, this isn't working like it used to, that's such a big thing to have to reframe. And like you said, the fact that they can handle that, it always bothers me when I get a patch change, so I'm impressed to see that. And, broadcast, just treating us with a wonderful look at that clip once again as we get ready for the matchup.
Yeah, shout out to production for pulling that up because that was one of the most beautiful plays.
I'm so glad they caught it.
This round. Yeah, they had that replay ready, man.
Yeah, they were like, ooh, this is a good one. Do not let this go to waste. And I do love, you were talking about the high and low advantage here. We didn't really get to touch on it fully at the time, but, Maxwell, that over there, while Strider then jumped in immediately afterwards, was such an insane clip to see here, just how quickly Kansas's defense was dismantled on the point.
Oh, sorry, that Lucio kill is really what gets me. He just bumps them right off.
Yeah.
See ya, nerd. And it's some good stuff to see. And yeah, that's the thing about Strider being on this wrecking ball, right, is you can take so many creative angles, and when your focus is on the point that's ahead of you, when you suddenly have this, rampaging hamster ball in your back line that's stopping your DPS from being effective on that forward push, especially at a time where the point is ticking down, what do? Your attention's all over the place.
It's go to the point, or the hamster rolling directly towards me going to launch me off the side. Yeah, there's only so much you can do for that. When he first released, I remembered looking at him and going, oh, everyone's going to be so mad when they get knocked off the side with this hamster because it's a hamster. You're like, really? He was one of the more interesting roster updates at the time. And so, seeing him continue to be there is amusing. But now we get to jump into the picks and bans. Looks like we're swapping over to Kings Row. No surprises there. That is a classic map for this. And, similar to what I was talking about, it does look like we have a slight change in the bans as well. It's not Ramatra, it's going to be Sojourn, which with Kings Row's long hallways and vertical areas you can be in, I'm not really surprised. You don't want to get sniped from the back by Sojourn if you can avoid it, and so getting rid of that definitely creates a little bit more easy breathing room for your opponent.
So it will be, I don't know, quite the experience to see how this does play out. I remember when I would play on this map, I was obsessed. You're going on the attack side, right, to just play Widowmaker and camp out and start shooting heads and whatnot, but I am not a pro player. In fact, I was very bad when I played Overwatch.
Same here. So, this is why we're on the desk watching and going, wow. But it looks like the secondary band swap is also going to be to Zarya, not Echo. Also, not surprising, when I've watched competitive matches with Zarya on this map, the big thing I was going to call out, generally speaking, with Kings Row is that you get stuck in this one spot for the longest time, and it is just brutal, and Zarya just makes it worse. So I don't blame them for being like, you know what? I don't feel like suffering for that long today.
And I also feel like if you are on attack and you do have Zarya, ultimate's up on the final push, right? You're pretty much just taking them all off the map at that point.
It's just like, no. Yeah,
You're not allowed to play the game.
Yeah, so I don't blame them for wanting to play the game, you know? They put in effort to get here and be able to play it, so worth that as we get ready for this next matchup and jump into the so classic Kings Row.
Should be interesting. I'm waiting to see what our compositions are. Or we actually do head into this. Teams are ready and prepared.
I always love hearing the noises in the background as we're getting into
It's
it.
very ambient. You know?
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, they're here. They're ready.
4, 3, 2.
That's the thing that stuck out to me about Overwatch when this first came out is something grand about
Oh,
this.
yeah.
But we do now got to look.
Speaking of grand, you know, the matchup, that is quite a grand old time so far. Boise State on the attack, moving forward. Vendetta jumping up and catching. Oh, that was, let's see, Wu Yang down and Tracer. That's a DPS and support out for Kansas and creates so little room for them to work with as Strider just jumps up, strides ahead to the point. My gosh.
Alongside Clear as well. It's kind of disgusting. You got the 1-2 punch jumping at you full speed. And if you're anything that's remotely squishy, it's going to take you down, but here comes Strider.
Speaking of, you know, Kiriko in a rough spot, trying to hold on, but Strider says no, knowing how support could being knocked out would be vital here, but the rest of Broncos were not in the space to be able to fully assist. Maxwell looking for those pot shots, back and forth eliminations either way, as Kansas is able to create a little bit more space, try and go for that. Stops the complete capturing of the objective, but Broncos were able to make a lot of progress so quickly there.
And that's always going to be one of the tough parts about taking the Wrecking Ball. Is sometimes you get a little bit too far from your supports, but here comes Boise State.
Ooh, look at all those knockouts, the team coordinating through that, able to unlock the payload. Kansas completely knocked out, needing to run from the backline here, giving Clear so much space to run up and just be a nuisance.
Do you feel like you eventually got to ban out this Vendetta?
I'm wondering about that. I've seen so much of this, not just this week, but last week, so I am surprised, but you know, Strider and Clear, I don't think they're complaining right now.
Oh, no, not at all. Start pushing up that payload. Now you're going to have to stop the momentum of the Broncos. And you know what Broncos do best? Stampede.
Yeah, you better be careful, or that might be you looking at My Dog Died, trying to find an opportunity to hang on, but it's not going to go through. Trades on both sides, but Clear is not ready to let up, using movement to get out of dodge, but they have not been able to stop this objective. And you know, just want to call out the crazy movement I was bringing up.
Yes.
Looks like there's a Vendetta on the other side as well. Ashton swapping to that. Might be able to do something, might not, especially with Strider jumping into the backline once more, taking down the Cassidy and looking for that opportunity. 3 down, and with the Kirito ults activating on both sides. Unfortunately for Kansas, they're not going to get enough value out of that. The Broncos just continue forward, barely breaking the sweat going to this first checkpoint here.
This is disgusting to handle right now. In Kings Row, I wasn't even thinking about how high a Vendetta could jump, but just being able to clear those buildings makes for such a creative attack path that you can take.
Compared to like normally how Kings Row functions, you just fundamentally change the map playing this character. And I can understand why both teams are playing it, though we do get into this part of the map where you're a little bit more closed in, might make some room for that. Maxwell having to back off. Better be careful, 2 players there ready. But instead of backing off, just gonna go and clean up shop. Hex taking down 2 players in the backline, and Maxwell getting the tank out of the way. The Broncos, although down, actually no players down, just 1 player left for Kansas here. Not even concerned rolling up to the second checkpoint, which is normally a brutal spot to push through.
I know Hex got a lot of kill credit there, but Maxwell setting it up with the grenade, able to stun out the entire team, set up that flank angle. It's got the Broncos looking fantastic right now.
Ooh, Vendetta against the Vendetta there for the ultimate knockout, and now my dog died unfortunately stuck between a rock and a hard place here is Clear looking for that knockout. Wendy's Frosty down. Three players down for Kansas. Ashton, the only one standing, and the Broncos take that so fast. Don't even know how to fully illustrate how scary that was.
Yeah, I used the word stampede, but I feel like it was very appropriate for what we just saw with that payload. What was Kansas really to do right there? I mean, on one end, when you were with the buildings being open, right, that's where Clear and Strider were able to prosper. But once you get into that final corridor, that's where you saw Maxwell start to step up. Again, that stun grenade sets up a beautiful flank, and there wasn't a thing that Kansas could do about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing a more precise character, once they can't be jumping around all crazy and they're stuck in the box, it's a lot more deadly. And yeah, you saw that in full swing. But now the Jayhawks need to find a way to kind of answer that, you know, the speed that the Broncos were able to display. They need to do something similar, or they're going to be in trouble for this, you know, swapping of the roles.
The big thing here is they do have a Vendetta player. We've been able to verify that, but who is going to go in alongside the Vendetta? For the Broncos, it's been, again, Strider alongside the Vendetta. The Jayhawks, I don't think they have someone who could dive alongside it.
It's true. We've been seeing a lot of Orisa played, which is a way more hunker down, hold the line type tank. So they're definitely going to need to find an answer to that. I see an Orisa outline over there, and I think that is still the play. So although they might have a Vendetta, they're going to be hanging out by themselves. And it looks like, you know, Strider just more than happy to be hanging out over there. Looks like they're actually going to swap off of the Vendetta, look for more of a classic approach here.
Yeah.
Strider does not care, though. Going to try and take out Ashton, is going to get stunned and have to back off, getting some heals, but the confusion is enough. Maxwell using that to take some opportunities here. They did manage to get a foot on the point, but not for long. Clear jumping into the back line, looking for the Torbjorn, and Wendy's goes down. Ashton and my dog died. No turret for them set up. That is 4 players down. The Lucio stuck in the middle here with nothing to do.
I want to know your thoughts on this composition Kansas is running right now. You already talked about the Orisa and the hunker down thing. I feel like Torbjorn kind of echoes that sentiment, but this is a map where you need to push for that first payload.
Yeah, I think the big thing that I find interesting for that is just being on attack and doing that. I mean, most of these characters are very flexible, but you need that momentum, and like the biggest thing is if you can't get to the objective and you can't start the payload, what are you going to do? And I just feel like I mean, we can see it already. They're getting thrown off by the movement that the Broncos are using. I don't know how it's going to go through. They might be able to sneak in through this corner here, jumping around the side, but I don't know, until the payload is free, not much to say, you know?
Not bad. They are acting as a unit, but now that unit's starting to crumble. Strider picking off Wendy's. Ooh, it's not looking good for Kansas right now.
Oh! That's a complete knockout. Kansas tried to sneak around, use the hallways to their advantage, but it just put them in a smaller box to be able to hit.
Yeah, I like the initial idea of trying to do a 5-stack, but that was disrupted so fast. You can see Strider's flank. Did a lot of work right there, and still yet to really get onto this point is Kansas.
Ooh, Kansas committing some ultimates here, trying to create some extra room. Maxwell looking to knock out my dog died here, not finding that opportunity, but going to instead look towards the 3 players that get knocked out. Now 4 to the side here. My dog died now being forced out, and Strider cleaning up. That's another team kill for the Broncos.
It just keeps coming in. 1:30 left on the clock for Kansas to try and get some work done. Broncos not allowing it. And look, 3 ultimates now up, including that minefield, which can be so crucial in stopping a lot of pushes. Clear almost goes down, though.
It's true. Almost happens, but is not yet. As we see, minefield is going to go down right there. Strider knew exactly what they wanted to do, capitalizes on it, and the rest of the Broncos jump in together, trying to go for the cleanup. And we see, once again, you know, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. But apparently for Kansas,
It needs fixing.
it needs fixing.
Get the wrench on it now. Yeah, that choke point became predictable at the time where we were talking about the minefield being up for Strider. That minefield in a choke point, that sucks to have to fight through, and Kansas
Yeah, what
just
are you going to
realized
do
why.
when you get caught off guard like that? Players on both sides, and we see, once again, Boise State continuing that strategy. Clear, trying to go for the supports, does get the trade, but, with a support down and 2 other players out, once again, Kansas just does not have what they need to push forward, as all they can do is back off. Especially back off now that Deadeye is up on the field and Maxall is, oh no.
Got the angle.
Oh no. Oh, they see Ashton on the Widowmaker there. Not enough. Ultimate going through from Clear here, and the Deadeye from the side, and with that, Kansas just can't move forward. Boise State takes that, I'd say, very comfortably.
Yeah. On attack side, it was already gross enough. I want to see his play of the game. Was this flank angle that we saw from Maxwell a little bit earlier in that round number 1? Actually, we might not actually get that, but okay, yeah, it was right after we got that flank angle that came in. So that's a really nice play of the game for Maxwell to clear out the last end of that. But yeah, what do you really do against the Broncos when they're on this much fire?
Yeah, and with that, of course, we have to thank ICCU for their continued support of Boise State Esports. Thanks to ICCU, Boise State Esports has won multiple national championships and piled up more than 1,500 wins. ICCU, looking after your daily balance. Visit iccu.com.
So there are so many smart ways that the Broncos played that game. I look back to the first round when they're on attack, utilizing the high ground that you can take with both the Vendetta and the Wrecking Ball and jumping over those buildings made it impossible for Kansas to figure out where the Broncos are coming from.
Yeah, and I mean on Kings Row, which is it's such a claustrophobic kind of map, with certain areas. Being caught from above is so rough, and that was just something the Broncos capitalized on and were able to find it. And then, when Kansas, it was their turn to try and employ strategies to get around that, they weren't able to find a way to break through to the payload. And that, I think there was just so much momentum lost for them there. The Broncos pushing forward so quickly on attack on a map that stereotypically takes a little bit, obviously not the case for every matchup, but just Kings Row, I know, is that one where you sit there and go, we're going to be here for a while.
And I do have to give some criticism over to Kansas. Yeah, they lost. That's already a big deal. But it's the way in which they lost, especially in their attack side. Mm-hmm. They were taking stuff that is normally trying to hunker down and defend against something when you're supposed to push forward. They would try these 5 stacks and kind of slip around the sides of the map to get going. But what is that really going to do when you need to get that point?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I understand trying the strategy, but doing it again right after the team kill, especially with, we said, Strider's ultimate was on, it was on active, cooldown. We saw him, he was right there. He was ready. That, and from everything that he's been doing, I was totally, as we were talking about, I'm I see this going off in the next 5 seconds because it's right there. I can see him. He's wiggling there, ready to go. What do you expect? And so I think, that's going to be a big thing going into this next matchup here. If Kansas wants to stop the 3-0, they need to make sure that they are adapting to what they're seeing.
In the play that we got out of the Broncos, there were so many highlight moments to really point out. I pointed out in round 1, Broncos attack round, the stun grenade flank that was done by Maxwell. I think the other one was the choke point squeeze that we got from Strider using the minefield on an attack that Kansas already kind of telegraphed because that's the route they kept going over and over. You can tell how desperate it was getting as things went on, right? They started doing some swaps. You saw the attempted Widowmaker to come out of the back end, but nothing was really effective against Boise State.
Yeah, and with that, the Broncos are in a very comfortable position going into Game 3 as we get to jump into the next map. Now, I will say, I got thrown off looking at the name there because that's my tag at the very beginning, Runa, and so I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, that's right, I forgot that. I'm like, wait a minute. But I believe I saw it was Tracer
and Wrecking Ball.
Yeah. finally done. They're done.
They've had
They're
enough
done.
of
They've
that
had enough of it.
hamster.
With that, reducing the mobility options, though, I would say with how many characters are on the roster, it doesn't really matter because, Vendetta's still here. Still gotta watch out for that. But this game mode has a little bit more back and forth just innately in it. You've got your robot in the middle pushing back and forth, and I think it'll be interesting to see the angles here as they look for their team cops, especially with Wrecking Ball being off the table.
It's a smart ban. Normally, teams have to have a interesting sense of play when they do have a Wrecking Ball on the field, because you're not having your traditional tank, right? Your tank's going...
No, you don't have someone standing.
Yeah, they're just right in the back
bullets.
line with you. And Clear and Strider working together with that much mobility as a duo is way too much for Kansas to handle. So taking out that Wrecking Ball is going to change up the playstyle of Boise State.
Of course, we are going to see the mirror match up of Zarya here now. Running straight into the fray is Clear, looking for the opposing Vendetta. Swinging around with that, Ashton goes down to Maxwell there. Pay attention to Clear and you'll be unfortunately knocked out by the Broncos. Cassidy here, pushing away from that point. Finding that first momentum.
He's always spraying. One thing I do notice about Maxwell, every
yeah.
corner he takes, he's got to put a spray in. But yeah, holding this point once again will be the Broncos. They do have Strider on the Zarya this time, so going to be a
little bit more.
Yeah.
Hold the line, but I mean, for this mode, it makes sense too. Wendy's Frosty's needing to back up, but it might not be enough. Clear knocking out 2 players with the help of Strider here, as Kansas has to continue to back away, but it's not enough. All the players are down and they need to recoup as the Broncos are able to make the first strides towards that checkpoint.
Yeah, Kansas, you did step 1 of what you need to take down the Broncos. You took down Clear, but there's still about 20 other steps in order to get this going into your favor. So we get into the next contention now coming up.
Ooh, Strider contesting the opposing tank here, trying to find an opportunity. Those bubbles are nasty, moving forward, knowing that's an opportunity, and it is going to be capitalized on here. We see Maxwell taking down Wendy's Frosties, and that's another wipe of the team. Gone and out.
Yeah, just done and absolutely dusted. And it's happening so fast, too. Like, the raw amount of DPS that Boise State is bringing, it can't even really be responded to on the side of Kansas.
Cracks in the dam that just caused the flood there. And that's something that the Broncos are more than happy to continue as we go into the next back and forth here. Looking for those opportunities. Strider taking the forward position once again, going back and forth with the opposing tank. Watch out for Vendetta having the shield up. That could be dangerous, but Lyric is there to back up, creating some extra room for the Broncos to move forward. Better be careful of someone, I think, in the back line there, but Maxwell, unconcerned, just looking to knock out the tank. Or Vendetta going for the stun and the Deadeye active. Oh, sneaking up the side, and they're all stuck. It's not going to be the knockout, but for sure, Kansas was worried there.
Oh yeah, very worried. Strider alongside Maxwell, their ultis used together is devastating.
Oh!
Speaking of devastation, there's Clear.
We're able to, just Ashton always on the receiving end of that ultimate.
Yeah.
Brutal if you are there, and the rest of Kansas follows, being knocked out once again. Wow.
Yeah, that was a decent attempt coming out from Kansas, but now you can see that stranglehold coming through. Kansas are losing breath very quickly. The Jayhawks need to act, otherwise Boise is looking for a 3-0.
Ashton trying to move forward. Maxwell does have to back off. The Broncos creating a little bit of space as Kansas is able to find potential momentum here, moving the bot back for their counter push. Clear hiding around the corner, looking for those potential picks. Better be careful. Ashton right there, going back and forth. Strider is able to create some extra space though. Oh, sinks out. That is a support down for Kansas. They need to be a lot more wary as Ashton's down too. Posing Vendetta gone, and Clear is able to take to the skies once more.
Yeah, that's Pretty classic strategy to see out of Boise State. Once you take down the support, there's no more heals. You can push forward. You can annihilate the Jayhawks, and luckily they brought their hunting rifle because they shot that hawk right out of the sky.
I see a very familiar tune here. Deadeye active once more. Such an open area, no one can avoid it, and Swirly Hawk goes down.
And it's just cleanup at this point. There's nothing really left for Kansas. The Jayhawks, they're gone in the blink of an eye. And the Broncos, we talked about how important this was to keep the momentum going forward. They're fighting like they mean it, and they're on victory's door.
Ooh, and Kansas wants to avoid this at all costs. Seeing potential going to, clear being low, having to back off, create a little bit of extra space. Broncos are still holding. Strider going for the ultimate, creating a space with a knockout. 3, I think, for Maxwell there at the end.
Yeah.
The Broncos knock this out here. Boise State taking the final game there, 3-0.
3-0. And this was redemption. Again, you have to look back and fall. In that match, the Jayhawks got the better of the Broncos. It was a 3-1. It was close. But now the Broncos, they've leveled up in spring, and they bring a beatdown to the Jayhawks.
Ooh, and a great way to kind of cap the turning point that we were talking about for the Broncos, you know, after the Baylor game 3-0, Kansas 3-0 now. They get to jump in and go into their next matchups going, all right, guys, you know, we had, you know, a little bit of back and forth last season, but we mean business for these last 3 weeks.
Yeah, this was fantastic play coming out because there's one thing to look at a stomp, but in the way they did it, it was some immaculate stuff.
Yeah, and as we're getting ready to wrap up this first match here, today's stream is brought to you in part by local dairy farmers and the dairy protein they produce. Thanks to them, Boise State Esports has access to next-level fueling options that keep our players playing at their peak. Unbottled dairy protein that powers your performance. Visit unbottled.com for more info.
I do want to hit back to that point, though. The way it was done is the important part because it showed that it wasn't just brute forcing down Kansas at the end of the day. Each match had a strategy that was employed and executed to absolute perfection, whether it be playing with Strider and Clear, taking the rooftops of Kings Row and raining down death, or the way Maxwell did his flanks, or setting up kills for Clear when he was on the Soldier 76. All of it was very well calculated.
Intention is everything, and the Broncos were confident in their goals, and they were able to make something of it. But that is going to be all we have, at least for the PEC, as we still have some to come tonight for Mountain West. Later tonight, as we get to watch the Broncos go up against SJSU. But as we're getting ready for that matchup, we're going to take a break, and then we will get back to the awesome Overwatch action.
Overtime, Kansas trying to look around, but getting moved.
Broncos. They do have Strider on Zarya this time, so it'll be a
little bit more.
Yeah.
Hold the line, but I mean, for this mode, it makes sense too. Wendy's Frosty's needing to back up, but it might not be enough. Clear.
The Broncos. We talked about how important this was to keep the momentum going forward. They're fighting like they mean it, and they're on victory's door.
And Kansas wants to avoid this at all costs, seeing potential going.
Since you guys have been in here, some things have changed. We've updated this place to be in its final form. New cabinets, new counters, all sorts of new stuff in here. This has turned into a place that wouldn't look out of place at an SEC or Big Ten football facility, and Dairy West has allowed us to have it here. We've taken a holistic approach to our player nutrition, and we're really thankful that Dairy West has made sure that our fueling station is the best in college esports and really at industry standard for any college athletic department.
Scott Matlock, underrated recruit, has built himself into one of the best defensive players in the Mountain West.
What would you do if you couldn't fail? Would you see every setback as a catalyst to keep going? This is the innovator's mindset, because innovation demands daring. is finding thousands of ways that don't work and the one that changes everything. It's when your unrelenting spirit sees the world's needs and says, I will create something better. So, what will you do? Will you let your genius run wild? Give yourself the space to be great. Set your sights on something even bigger, because we know changing the world doesn't happen by chance. It comes out of the blue.
Now earn up to 4 times the rewards with the ICCU Premier Rewards Visa credit card. It's the credit card from the credit union you love.
My friends know me as Derek, but I'm also Master Sergeant Raxter. This is my life in the Air National Guard.
Hello and welcome back to the Boise State Esports Arena. As we do get ready to jump into our Mountain West game, we still need to reflect on that awesome PEC matchup, the Broncos versus Kansas, as we get ready to go into an interview, get a little bit of info on how the match went, and as we were teasing on the desk here, a lot about the updates, as Overwatch is going through a pretty big change compared to some patch notes. It's nothing to sniff at and nothing to ignore, so continuing to call action. My name is Audrey Norris, but I'm going to be joined by Maxwell here as we get to talk about the matchup. So, generally speaking, we were talking about it on the desk. This is a bigger, turning point. There's not a lot of games left, and this 3-0 is just another mark continuing forward to contest with Utah for second place. So what was your guys' kind of thoughts? Were you worried about that, or were you feeling comfortable because of clear?
We're very comfortable at the moment. This new patch is a lot of fun. It reminds me of like Overwatch 1. Playing this patch makes it feel like the old days, and I think everybody on the team enjoyed it too. So
yeah, that's actually something I think we didn't highlight very much on stream, but I was reflecting because I played a lot more Overwatch 1 than I've ever played Overwatch 2. There is a lot of updates coming through. They've got the new heroes, 5 heroes they just dropped. We're not going to be seeing them in the PEC just yet, but they are coming. We've got the passives that they've been talking about. We've got some map changes and just some general reworks. What's the big thing that you guys are excited for right now, for competitive?
I think looking forward to the 5 heroes, of course, since we're not going to play it in PEC or Mountain West, I think, right? So we're just going to be playing that in comp and experimenting with it. For me, I think I'm going to try out that Amra hero. It's going to be a lot of fun. All the rewarding on the hit scan heroes will be a lot of fun too. And I think Strider is very excited about the ball changes. And he's having a great time with it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could see that full on in this game. Yeah. Just all of the chaos that you guys were able to just use against Kansas for that. With that, the heroes are a big thing, of course. If I remember correctly, there's going to be a team number update too as well, right? Is it like 5-player to 6, or am I thinking of something else?
I think they're still keeping it 5, but they definitely changed how the game works a little bit more to like
bringing
Overwatch
it more back to Overwatch 1. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing for that. With that general stuff, of course, that is going to be changing the general flow of the game, but PEC, of course, is the big focus point right now. You've got 3 games left. Couple of the big opponents in the mirror right now. I guess not the mirror, but the the forward-facing path right now. Who are you guys most worried about right now?
Worried. I'm not sure. We're kind of excited to play all of them again since we're all full team again.
I mean, hey, that's a good outlook, right? Like, not being nervous about it, but more just excited. Okay, who are you most excited for then?
Between Syracuse and Ohio, I guess. They're both about like the same. I enjoy playing against both of them, so I'm looking forward to both of them at the same level, Yeah,
Syracuse being, I believe, 4th, and then Ohio being the 1st. So, kind of looking at those two sides right now, the top 4. Yeah. I remember watching, both of the matchups, and they've definitely been some fun back and forths. And as we were talking about, with Utah going up against them too, it'll be interesting to see how those matches go for both teams, as you guys are settling into that. With just all these general things happening, is there anything you guys are focusing on to get ready for these matchups, or are you feeling pretty good so far?
I think we're all feeling pretty good. We're trying to get some more time in on the new patch, and everybody's excited to play the new Overwatch, so we're very excited for everything that's coming up.
That must be really refreshing to have, just like a new update. When you guys have to put so many hours into the game, like I'd imagine any patch that's more significant, you're like, oh my gosh, new stuff.
Exactly, yeah. It's a lot of fun too, especially me playing hit scan and all the new specialist buffs that it gave to DPS, rewarding you when you hit more shots and you get your cooldowns back.
Yeah,
that's
those like sub rolls to really highlight those specific niches. Well, I think that's a really exciting thing to be viewing, and although it's not super obvious on the stream just yet, I'm sure it has a big impact for you guys behind the scenes while you're playing, and really rewarding those play styles that you guys have been like curating for so long.
Our ball comp's going to be amazing now.
Yeah, I was looking at that because I believe there's something for Airborne specifically, so the ball comp will continue to live on.
Exactly.
Not taken down yet, but. With that, is there anything final you guys want to say? Call out, shout out for going forward?
Well, shout out for to my team. They're playing amazing today. We had perfect comms, perfect synergy today, so we're happy about that. We're back on track. New game, new us, new team.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So new team, new update, for the game going into those last weeks. Well, it's great to hear from you guys on that as you get ready to go into the Mountain West matchup later. So thank you for sharing a little bit of insight on that, what you guys are excited about. It's nice to hear that you guys are excited about all of this stuff because, I know some people can dread changes, but having that forward mindset of, no, this is exciting is a great place to be as you're getting ready to go into the PEC. But as I continue to tease, that is all we have for PEC specifically, but we will be jumping into Mountain West later, SJSU, so be ready for that. We are not done tonight. We've got more awesome action to view later.